Hey everyone, thanks for hopping on. I have a question, and this originated after talking with a friend who's taken on like a director of marketing role. And we were just talking about tech stacks and just stacks in
Mm.
general, especially as, the year's coming to a close. Everyone's reassessing their budgets, looking at 25. And so I wanted to ask y'all kind of when you think of like your own respective tech stacks you've worked with in current previous roles, how have you made those decisions to pick a app or a piece of software or what have you, a solution to help you? I know, in marketing we have so many different tools available to us, some that are more of kind of like one off, more kind of like singular solution based, some that are a little bit more comprehensive. And so, wanted to get all of your thoughts because I know we have a variety of experiences here. So, just curious.
Yeah, I think where my mind goes, Ashley, right away is
Hmm.
back to the funnel, the kind of traditional funnel. And I think that there's three core components when it comes to constant, consistent communication and outreach, proactive outreach. Marketing automation tools, which, I think they nurture leads at scale. They are effective at moving individuals down the pipe because they're reaction based. We talk more
Hmm.
about those, but then just email marketing software can be a smaller type of system that really helps maintain a broad audience, keeping your brand top of mind type of thing. So more at the top. And then the sales emails, there's some tools and software out there that Derek or Greg might know about and use a little bit more that can be really effective at taking over the bottom of the funnel and driving direct conversations with personal outreach to warm or hot leads. But I think that, that point, the warm or hot is something to think about too. So how are you nurturing leads as a whole? And then which tool is best to reach each of that? Those are kind of three that I think of right out of the gate.
Okay.
Almost sounds like, Kristen, you're saying that based on where your organization is focused on the funnel, right? So,
Yeah.
Ashley, for your friend, if they're in a B2B scenario where their job is top of funnel, identify leads, nurture them, it's going to be about what, almost tools by type. And then the next level is how are you engaging? And then you're selecting the tools. So if you want something comprehensive, you're wanting a marketing and automation tool. Is that Christian? Versus like if you're maybe early on, it's making sure you can do email. Now you might find one that can do multiples of the above, ones above,
Exactly.
but you need to work your way down the funnel to identify. So is that, am I hearing that right, Kristen?
Exactly. I frame it up the
Okay.
exact same way. That email marketing, oftentimes there's lower cost to entry, and they really do focus on sort of that broadcast style, newsletters, promotions, large audiences, just a really good place to get started. But then that next step that most businesses can justify if they're ready is that marketing automation piece, which is that really comprehensive sort of automated nurturing of leads through different stages of the funnel and through the journey. Yep.
In that
I
scenario,
have a
are you
little bit of a
eliminating a
yeah. Go
tool,
ahead.
Kristen?
What's
Like
that?
if you had an email marketing tool and then you progressed into marketing automation, are you keeping that or are you removing tools above and adding a tool that can take care of it? So almost consolidating tech stack, or are you keeping separate?
I think it just depends on the organizational needs, but most times I would say that there's always an opportunity to consolidate because usually these more sophisticated platforms can cover the basics and you actually can get even more broad about which type of broad audiences you want and segment even more. So it just even allows you to further sophisticate what you're trying to do and who you're trying to talk to. And so oftentimes you don't need that first level email marketing system if you upgrade to an automated tool that's got
Okay.
lots of options for you.
Okay. Derek, you're saying something. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So I have a little bit of a different perspective when it comes to solutions or tools that a company can use, because revenue ops follows from lead, the whole buyer journey, lead to customer, also engages with products. So there's a bunch of different tools, and the mistakes that I see from a lot of companies is obviously over solutioning yourselves in silos. So marketing buys their tool, sales buys their tools. There's a PM tool, there's a product management tool. I mean, there's everybody, but nobody communicates with each other. We don't have a source of truth or a CRM that says, okay, these are the ones that we can integrate with. And so a lot of times marketing's like, and usually there's a loyalist. They're like, oh, my marketing automation tool is this. This is the one I like. And then it goes down the road. Sales like, well, this is the one I like. So a lot of times I see, and I don't want to throw name brands out there, but you end up buying solutions that are pretty much similar, but based on the same or different departments. They don't work together. And when you buy a solution, even marketing, I know you aren't going to like this, that's a discussion for the whole company. That's not just a decision for marketing. That's also a decision that sales needs involved with, that client success, that product, that IT, because you have to understand where you are now as a company, 50 people to 500 to 1,000, and where you want to go. But also there has to be a flow of information. There has to be a source of truth with different departments plugging in at different times. And a lot of times that discussion does not happen. Sales like, this is what we're doing. Mark said, that's what they're doing. And you kind of create this hodgepodge and you over solution yourself. And you end up spending a lot of money. You get too many seats for these solutions that aren't needed. And this is solution, when you look for a solution, this is not just for that department. It's for the company. And you got to figure out the best functionality for everybody. And it may not be markets like, well, we're 5 stars on this solution. Like, well, I know, but down the road, if we want to do marketing to our consumer, our current customers, but we switch them over to another CRM that you don't integrate with, how are you going to market with them if you get too far down the funnel? So for me, it's a lot of, I have to learn so many different solutions, because there are some and they're great. There's, inside sales tools, there's proposal tools. It's all fantastic, but it can create a lot of user adoption abrasion where there's like, I don't want to learn another freaking tool or export this data so I can put it into something else. You really need to sit down as a company and roadmap your entire data flow and where things need to be and where they plug in before you just go one department buying one or another. So I know that I went off on a tangent because, my goodness, I have to learn so many different tools being a consultant. And I see job descriptions. We're like, well, you need to know this, 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 and this. And I'm like, holy crap, like 3 of those things can be replaced by one. So I'll kind of get off my soapbox and let y'all chime in after that.
I think the interesting
something really quick that you talked about that I think is critical, and that I think marketers, we would actually ecstatically agree with you, is that data is everything. So if we don't have good data, we don't trust the contact information, the email addresses, and typically sales owns those contacts, right? So we want to make sure, especially in a B2B scenario, that is good quality information that's tagged properly. So when we go to organize and segment lists and audiences with different products, promotions, whatever it might be, that we can trust who we're reaching out to. Otherwise, our results are not going to be effective and nobody wins. So I think that's just something to think top and center for everybody is, how do they integrate together and how do we make sure that the data is solid and it's something that we all trust at the end of the day.
Yeah, the other thing that I think that you hit on, Derek, that I think gets missed so often is the IT component. More often than not, what ends up happening is a team will make a decision, whether it's 5 people in an organization and, you got somebody who's like a hobbyist at maintaining your Microsoft account and the domains, but they're not, maybe they're not a developer per se, or, that kind of thing. And then you add a sophisticated tool like, a CRM or a marketing automation platform. The level of sophistication, having done different types of implementations, you might need somebody from your IT team to do whitelisting and IP setups and connections and APIs, and you might need them for a week to put it all together and then test it and then verify that it works and all of that kind of stuff. You know, it's 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 a really good call out that you have there, that you have to talk across the organization, even if it's at that. And I'll raise that a level, is that when you're buying tools, you know, make sure if you're in that director of marketing role, or especially if it's your first time at a director level, right? So you've had a great career, you're moving your way up, whether you're a director of product management, whether you're director of marketing, sales, right? Often making sure that you have a coherent list from your leadership team, your leader, whether you're reporting straight to the CEO or maybe you report to a COO, depending on the role in the company. You know, what data and analytics do they want to see, right? And how can you compile that? Because what I have seen is, you know, and Derek and I worked on some companies that, like, what ends up happening is you spend half a day compiling data to give it to your leader because it's in 3 or 4 locations. And now, instead of, hey, let's make sure all of these can hook to Power BI, hook to Google Data Studio, hook to, or at least create a simple dashboard system where you can share those analytics to allow the leaders to feel informed and not have to micromanage, becomes critical. But again, it may require your IT team. It requires, what does your leadership want to see? Not just the functionality that you may need as an executor. So I think that that's really, really insightful, Derek. And obviously, I mean, as many tools as you end up working with and integrating with and touching at different times on the buyer's journey, you know, I think there's some room for improvement regardless of how big you are, to engage the organization and make sure, you know, hey, if we're going to buy a email marketing tool, customer success, what are your vision plans for next year? Oh, you want to start doing a thought leadership newsletter next year. Oh, okay. I need to make sure that I can see your people. Or, you know, product, what do you want? Oh, well, we want to measure what we lose and who we're losing to, so we can assess market penetration. I think that that's all critical stuff. So yeah, really.
And at
really
the end
helpful.
of the day, usually it goes down to the end users. The decisions usually come from the direct, like you just said, the director level, and then the director goes to their senior VP or executive or chief officer. But the end users, the people who are actually using the software, putting in the data, get no say so. And so, or little training. So if you get bad data in or bad user adoption in, then it goes upstream to the C-suite, and then you get these conversations of, well, I don't trust what's in blah.
Right.
And now you go back to square one. So it's not just, can you afford the solution? It's also the people that you have, can they use it in the way that you need it to be used, so you get your data out of it? And a lot of times that does not happen, or they skimp on training, or because usually implementation cost is pretty substantial up front. And so you try to find ways, or, you know, you really have to pay attention to the end user to make sure. And usually it comes across as micromanagement of, like, update this, update that. We have our weekly meeting. You know, it's like you said, it's not just a director above conversation. It's also below the end users. That step gets missed a lot as well.
Well, and the other thing you just hit on that I think is important is the level of implementation required is directly correlated to how much internal support you need, right? So if you're looking at a tool, like I think of the tools we use in product management, you know, you just do a kickoff call with our resource team, and they're going to show you how to use the guide and build out the project management software that builds your product roadmap. And you're like, awesome. And then you dive into it, and if you don't have a dedicated person on your team who is essentially going to become the admin of that tool, who is going to be the expert on knowing the ins and outs and how to work that and answer the questions, what you're going to find is you overbuy. You buy way more technology than you end up being able to implement. Excuse me. And, you know, that that's the biggest thing that I see on my side, on the product side, is people get real excited about the level of sophistication that their product management tools can bring them, whether it's, software and they're using Jira and how sophisticated and automated and the tickets and the story points and all the things. But if you're a shop of 10 people, somebody's got to build all that, right? Like, it's not as easy as turning on a project. So, be wary is my advice on any software, but specifically on the product side. Be wary about what templates exist, and then, frankly, I like to tell people, take your dream version and buy the one down from it, and figure out what you actually need and what they actually use. And because custom reporting or a dynamic roadmap or, story point success might be something you want, but if you're not already working with story points and you're not assigning epics and doing your road mapping that way, you're just handling projects as they come in, as you build your first product or you're building your second product or whatever. Don't overcomplicate the dream state. Don't buy for the dream state, elevate to the dream state, meaning buy the base tool, get really, really good at it, and then start having your users, to your point, Derek, say, I need this functionality. I need automation because it would cut 4 hours a week for me. And that 4 hours is where I could spend it. And now you can quantify to your leadership team, I need to upgrade to a next level. And in order to do that, we now know the tool well enough to know it's 50 hours of a developer to build us that automation. It's going to cost us this in subscription and this in implementation. But here's the ROI next year. It frees up 200 hours for the team per person. And now you have a compelling conversation about how you improve your tech stack. Don't think of it as I have to buy my kingdom on the front end and then slowly migrate into my kingdom. It's better to start small and go big. Dang weather freeze and change here in Nashville is killing me.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, all of you provided so much information. I'm going to call my friend tonight and have a deep dive, and I'm sure he'll be extremely appreciative as well. But I mean, ultimately, he needs to look at the tech stack that is already available, going back to kind of what you were saying, Derek, especially if there may be other uses or different departments that are already using similar platforms or platforms that maybe it's working for them. They can just get extra seats and then there we go. But then also going to like what you were talking about, Kristen, for the marketing piece of things, looking at where in the funnel are they really targeting, are if they're handling some of the sales piece, which they're not, making sure that they have something that integrates well with the sales, so that it goes back to the data piece as well, where everything is trustworthy, it's in one place, and they're not having to scramble and download and put in Excel and do all of this to, figure out what is what. And that they're actually, when it comes to their database, that helps them having a cleaner database of actual engaged audience members, essentially. And then even going to what you were saying, Greg, about the product piece, which I think is something that's always, or I'll say from my experience, seems to be ignored. And ultimately, again, everyone provided a lot of great information. It was a great download. I won't hold y'all any longer. I know this has been a good chunk of time. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks.
Bye,
Appreciate
Ashley.
it.